Hey everyone, my name is JT, the Talking Head. You are the audience, and you are listening to episode 10 of the Masters of Matinee podcast, a collaborative show between content creators who all share great love for cinema and a passion for physical media. Our co-host today is Zedzilla, and we're just kind of having a casual conversation about some movies. No real subject or topic for today, just a genuine and fun convo. Masters of Matinee would like to remind you to please silence all cell phones and do enjoy the show. So I saw a pretty good movie last night.
What'd you watch?
I watched two. One of them I'm not going to talk about much on this episode because I've got Teo coming on the show in a couple days, and it's a movie that he recommended me, so we're going to talk about it there. But that movie is
Adam
called
Sandler's Click.
yes, no. That movie is called Boyhood. It's a Richard
Oh,
Linklater
I
film.
love that.
Yeah, have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. Actually, within the last few months, I watched it for the first time.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was fantastic. Thought it was really neat how they shot it over 12 years and they were able to reunite the cast every year for 12 whole years. It's something very unique in
That's
Hollywood.
very special that nobody either went to drugs or got hurt, injured, or died.
Or that the kid that played him was just like, I don't want to act anymore. Because you know how
Yeah,
kids
get
are
Shia
fickle.
LaBeouf in here to finish it off.
But the other film that I watched was Ghost World. It's a who directs that? Zwigoff or something. Terry Zwigoff.
Leg off.
Zwigoff. Zwigoff.
Try to spell it to me as if I can spell. Okay, buddy.
Reminds me of that old Vine. It's like, what's up? I'm 16. Never fucking learn how to read.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, was Ghost World good then?
Yes, I've seen Ghost World many times before. It's one of my favorite
What's that
movies.
about?
So it's got Thora Birch, who played the kid sister in Hocus Pocus, and it's also got a young Scarlett
Oh,
Johansson. This
oh.
movie came out in like 2001. Um, and it's also got Steve Buscemi. And this
Sold
movie,
it.
let me tell you, is so fucked up. So Thora
Oh.
Birch, Thora Birch is the main character. Her name's Enid, and her best friend is Rebecca, played by ScarJo. And they are two kids that just graduated from high school. And the film is really about that awkward time in a kid's life between when they graduate from high school and between like if they're going to go to college or go into the workforce or just fuck around or whatever. And Enid is a very odd person, and she's very, to me, she comes off as very holier than thou, but she's also an artist and she draws and stuff. She's very pretentious. Um, and one day they're browsing the Craigslist section, like the personal ads section of Craigslist or the personal ads in the paper or something like that.
I'm frequent to it. Yep.
Yeah, and they find this guy he puts a personal ad, and it's out to this woman that he met in an airport, and he helped her find her lost contact lens. And he said, "Is it just me, or did we have something there?" And he like left his phone number and everything for her to call him. And so Enid and Rebecca uh, call him as a prank and tell him to meet at this restaurant and wear a green sweater. And they go to the restaurant and they just watch this poor guy get stood up. And because they're just like, I want to see what kind of a loser puts this kind of ad in the paper. But like when he comes over to the restaurant, like Enid gets like infatuated with him, and so she kind of becomes a little bit obsessed with him and stalks him a little bit, and then ends up befriending him because they go to they follow him to his house. And then he's like living in an apartment complex, and then a couple days later Enid and Rebecca go back to that apartment complex, and they like are going through the mailboxes trying to like figure out based on the mail where he would live, like what apartment number. And they hear like a noise around the corner, and they go around, there's like a bunch of like car garages that are open, and people are like, it's like a little flea market, people are selling stuff out of it, and he's got a stand set up there where he's selling like old records and stuff. And so she buys one of the records from him. She meets him face to face and buys one of the records. Now, mind you, he doesn't know what she did. and his name
Sure.
is Seymour, and he is played by Steve Buscemi. And so Steve Buscemi is a very awkward looking fellow, very awkward actor anyway. He portrays very funny characters, and
He has what
Seymour,
he.
yeah, so Seymour sells her this record and stuff, and she just keeps coming back and hanging out with him and stuff. And mind you, she's 18 and he's like in his 40s, so it's like all
Yeah.
about that. And then like she like gets him like she's like, I'm gonna help you get a date and everything. And then she gets him a date, and then like he's like, I don't think that I should be hanging out with you anymore because you're so young, and it's creepy, which he's right. And he never should have been hanging out with her like that in the first place. And uh and so she ends up, do you want me to completely spoil this for you,
Can I
or
take
is
a
this,
guess?
what's that?
Can I take a guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
Okay. So the Virgin blows out the black candle and summons three witches, and Steve Buscemi become becomes a small black cat. And what happens? What happens at the end of the movie?
Oh my god. So, um, she ends up like she's all right. So Enid's a completely self-destructive person, 100%
Yeah.
self-destructive, and so she ends up self-sabotaging her relationship with Rebecca and her relationship with her father. And she also had failed an art course in high school, and they were like, you have to take it over the summer, and she ended up sabotaging that for herself. And when all the stuff came crashing down, she knocked on Seymour's door in the middle of the night after he told her in very kind words to essentially fuck off. You're too young for me to be hanging around. It's creepy. She was just like, I just need somebody to be nice to me for 5 minutes, and then I'll leave you alone forever. I'm sorry, I promise. And then she's like, you got anything to drink? Because she goes to his fridge. She like pulls out a champagne bottle, and she's like, what's this? And he's like, oh, that's whatever the woman's name that he's seeing is. That's hers. And he's like, we're saving it for our 2 month anniversary. And Enid just like pops the cork and starts chugging it. And they end up getting drunk together, and they end up sleeping together. And it's very fucking creepy.
Oh,
Yeah. And so then,
that's the climax of the movie. Steve Buscemi gets laid.
not quite. that's that,
Oh,
that's the, I would say that's like the valley of the movie rather than the peak. That's the low point of the movie. That's the
so
point.
tell me about Steve's peak then. What happens?
Oh, Steve doesn't get a peak. Steve gets fired from his job. Steve gets, yeah. It's for a reason. You need to watch the movie because it's actually for a reason that I I can't talk about on this show. Even with us being, fuck it, I'll just talk about it. Okay, so
Bill the T says, what happened?
I had to rip my vape pen for this shit. Oh, okay. So Steve's character Seymour works at this chicken chain, like this, like it's like a Chester's chicken or KFC type thing. And he's like an assistant manager for the corporate office. And he has an interest in the history of the company. Well, the company was not, it was called Cook's Chicken in the movie. The company was not always called Cook's Chicken. The company was originally called a term that is a very racist Jim Crow South term for a black person. Uh, that
Okay.
shares a name with a trash eating, or the trash panda varmint that digs through your garbage. Um,
I see, I see, I see.
yeah,
Awesome.
that close but no cigar. That that animal uh, chicken, and like
Okay.
the logo for it was like a very racist rendition of a black man. Like think of Aunt Jemima on steroids. Like that's how racist it was. Like it was it was horrible. And
Oh no.
so like Enid takes this so Seymour has this big like painting of it. It's an old ad spot. He has a huge thing of it, and it's not like he has it on display. Like he's a an archivist of sorts. Like he has an interest in the
Yeah.
company, and so he has this as part of like a collection that, and he's not proud of it or anything. But
No, no.
Enid finds it, and she's like, "Can I borrow this?" And she's like, "I promise I'll take care of it." And he's like, "I don't know what for, but okay." And she ends up taking it to her art class, and the art class, in order for them to pass the class, they have to do an art show. And her teacher's like, um what does everybody think of this? And the whole class is like, it's racist, it's uncomfortable, it's offensive. And they're like, why don't we ask the artist what she thinks of it? And the teacher's like, did you actually paint this? She's like, no, it's more of a found art. That's kind of pulling it out of her ass. But she's like, well, what does it mean to you? And um, she's like, it's a commentary on how things, how racism has been whitewashed over in our society, which is true. I will give Enid this, it's very true. And it's like, she pulled it out because it's like, it's not that nowadays it's less racist, it's just people are more willing to keep their racism to themselves. And
Yeah,
so back in the 40s and stuff, when Cook's Chicken was a thing, when it first coming around, it was a lot more blatant. And she was like, "This is something that should make you feel offended and disgusted, essentially." And that's something that I
yeah.
can definitely agree with. It's a very good point. But so the teacher shows, like, she puts that in the art show at the end of the year, and then like everybody in the art show is offended by it, and she's like, "Why don't we let the artist tell you why she did this?" But Enid no showed the fucking thing while that art show was going on, with everybody getting offended by this piece of found art, quote unquote, from Enid. She was fucking Seymour, and so while she's fucking
This
Seymour,
does not sound like a fun movie.
while she's fucking Seymour, the entire town is getting pissed off. Newspapers are taking prints of it, calling her racist, and telling her this and that. And then this piece of history from Cook's Chicken comes out, and yeah, so the headquarters of Cook's Chicken knows that the only person who would have that is Seymour, so they fire Seymour.
How could they know he's the only person? How could they possibly know that?
Because he mentioned earlier, I just should have mentioned this, but he mentioned earlier in the film that he took that from work, like it was from work.
Oh my gosh. And so which one did you watch first yesterday? Boyhood or what's it called?
So yeah, I watched Boyhood first, but I watched Ghost World last night, and this was a rewatch. This is actually, believe it or not, Ghost World's a movie that I saw when I was like a preteen for the first time.
And
So,
what did you think then?
I can tell you that my prepubescent brain didn't think about it as analytically as I do now. Um,
Sure. Were you uncomfortable at all?
well, I didn't really get the racist undertones of it and what she was like. That part of it kind of blew right over my head.
Sure, yeah.
So, nowadays, looking back at it, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is a great movie to watch just because of stuff like that, like picking up those undertones and the little mannerisms and stuff from people in that movie. Like it's a very awkward movie though. The whole point of the movie, in my opinion, is that it's supposed to be awkward. You're not supposed to like these people. They're like, Enid and Rebecca are both major assholes. They're horrible people. And the seemingly only normal person in the film, Seymour, is portrayed as a weirdo, and then you're trying to like him, even though he's portrayed as so odd. Which there's nothing wrong with him. He's just really into old music and stuff, and he's like an elitist of it, I guess. But
He's a hipster? That's why they that's why
no, no,
they
no, no, no,
think
no, no.
that he's
Not
weird?
not a hipster. No, he's like more into like jazz, like 1920s jazz and blues and
Oh.
ragtime and stuff like that. Um, but but then it's like all of
Wait, hold
this.
on.
Mhm.
Hold on. Is this the reason why before we started recording you've been singing old ragtime songs?
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
That's the reason why, is because of this freaking movie? Oh my gosh. Okay, I saw you were watching like old Looney Tunes. Okay, all right,
No,
okay.
no, it is actually not why I actually sing those songs very often, because I, in my real life, outside of the sphere of Masters of Matinee and my sleep deprived online personality, do enjoy some good blues and jazz and ragtime. I love that music. I am a connoisseur of music, something you wouldn't know about growing up in a deaf household. Boom,
Yeah, I know
roasted.
nothing about that.
um but no, yeah, Seymour is like that, like through all of the stuff that they've been building you to like Seymour, it's like it just all goes away. It Thanos snaps out of existence the minute that he fucks an 18-year-old, because it just gives you the ick so bad, dude. It's
That
horrible.
it reminds me of when I was, I guess, in my late teens. I don't know how old I was, but The Graduate. Um,
Yeah, that one I
I
haven't seen that one, but yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking
with
about.
Dustin Hoffman, like I was sort of like around when I started collecting Blu-ray, when I finally got my first Blu-ray player. I switched from a tube TV to an LED TV, or whatever they're called, a flat screen. I don't know. I don't know TVs very well, but a flatter screen. I At Goodwill, I came across The Graduate, and I said, "Oh my God, I love Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. I love Rain Man. Dustin Hoffman. I gotta watch this movie." I popped it in. I tried so hard to stick around, but probably a good 40 minutes into the movie, I just couldn't. It was just so awkward, and now looking back on it, awkward for good reason. And if I were to watch it now, I'd probably share it a little bit, but still get through it. But then I could not pop that baby out the player, and it's just been sitting in my stack of Blu-rays for 6 years. I don't know. I could not finish that movie though. But speaking of really great movies that we've watched recently, because I know like that's your favorite movie you've watched this year, right? Is Monster or Ghost World? What's it called? The title does not match the story.
It's called Ghost World, and okay. So Ghost World does have some more, not supernatural themes, but more like ambiguous, like leaves the audience to decide the meaning of it. It's a very
He
not.
was dead the whole time. Oh my gosh! I
It's
did not expect that.
it's a very nihilistic film, I will say. Oh, and another thing that I should mention too, if you like movies like Napoleon Dynamite, you'll probably dig Ghost World, because
Oh, of course.
it's got that early 2000s feel to it. That's like, um it's like that period of time where stuff was still being shot on film. They hadn't transferred to digital yet, and it's a early 2000s dramedy like Napoleon Dynamite, and it's just awkward
Yeah.
high schoolers, and it's a great film. I love it. But yeah,
This it's perfectly transitioning into the movie that I want to mention, because it have you ever heard of Lars and the Real Girl?
no, I cannot say I have.
Okay. So it's starring Ryan Gosling,
Ooh,
and it's from, I believe it's from 2007. And what you just described about kind of an awkward character, uh, but like meets Napoleon Dynamite, that's what Lars and the Real Girl is. Ryan Gosling plays this character who is super antisocial, um, and he lives in the garage of his uh, older brother and his wife. So like both their parents have passed away. They have inherited this property, but instead of all living in this really big house, he just lives in the garage. He comes and goes to work, but has no social life. Like again, he is very his social manners or any, like he's an absolute sweetheart, but he tenses up under any type of social interaction. And he has this coworker who is sort of the exact opposite of him. but very gross. And he's online in the middle of like their desk job, looking up real sized girl dolls. And Lars is Ryan Gosling's character's name, is like, dude, turn that off. Like, that's gross. Stop doing that. But he ends up ordering one. The movie jumps forward like 2 months, and he has this, shipping container delivered to his garage. And he opens it up, and it's this real size girl doll. And I believe he calls it Bianca. And he has a relationship with it. He basically becomes, he has not an emotional breakdown, but he more or less truly imagines this person, this doll, as a real life human. And there's like backstory to the character, and there's also character development for this doll, character development for Lars, and the whole town basically has to buy into his whole, like, I don't want to call it a mental breakdown because it's not a mental breakdown, but into his delusion. And like the local, everyone gets into it. Everyone, like, they start taking this doll, and she gets a job. She runs for like some type of, like, not student council, but like a council thing for the school, and she wins. Like, people are actually like doing things and like making this really feel real. And what I loved about it is Lars, more than any other character I've ever seen in any movie ever or story I've read, he reminds me of my little brother. And I feel that, everybody should be accepted for their quirks. And my little brother is very quirky, very quirky. And, and dude, when I showed my little brother clips from the movie, we couldn't help but die laughing together because of how similar this character was to him. And to see this whole town, buy into this delusion and help Lars through this time was beautiful. It's supposed to, I think the film is set up to be a bit awkward, sort of like moments in Napoleon Dynamite or in this movie that you're speaking on. But I didn't feel awkward at all because I felt like I was watching my little brother. And obviously, like, I accept my little brother for everything that he is. But it's so sincere, one of the most sincere movies I've seen. It is so beautiful, it is cute, and it is heartbreaking. It is everything. It's hilarious as well. Like, you're speaking of like Napoleon Dynamite type comedy. It's very dry comedy, and it works. I love all the actors and actresses in this film. The actress that plays Lars's sister-in-law is fantastic. But it's a movie about a dude and a sex doll, and he is finally breaking out of his shell, but it's in a way that you wouldn't expect. He's not like going to the local card shop and playing Pokemon with people. He has this sex doll, and he doesn't have sex with it. It's just his friend. It's just his friend, his lady friend. He has a crush on it, but everyone buys into it and does their best to accept him. And again, this doll goes on adventures with everyone. Like, she has a calendar, and people are like, "Oh, I want to take Bianca to go do this and to go do her hair, or go buy dresses, or we're gonna go out to lunch or whatever." It's so good.
Is
What do you think
so
about it?
like when Ryan Gosling's character is looking at the doll, though, does he like see her as like actually alive, or and then everybody else in the town sees her as just a doll, or does he see her as a
So
doll too?
no, she is a real person, but there's never a point where we get to see it from Lars's perspective. Like, we don't. There's not like scenes with like a real actress, and then it cuts away, and it's still just the doll sitting in the wheelchair. Um, but Lars truly has this. Yeah, he believes that she is a real person. And they have full blown conversations back and forth. It's not just Lars like saying everything for her.
It's like you actually hear
They
her
have
voice.
No, you don't ever. But you can infer from his answers or his questions what they're talking about sometimes.
Oh,
Obviously, act like some of the other characters will say like, "Oh, what does Bianca think about this?" Or did Bianca enjoy her food? Or what's Bianca's favorite color? That kind of stuff. And Lars will answer for her. Um, but no, like he has full blown conversations with her that you don't get to hear her side, but you can infer what they're talking about, and it's fully comprehensible.
from the way that you describe it, it reminds me very much so of three movies, like a cross between these three movies. Um,
Her,
no,
her's not one of them. Sorry, I preemptively jumped in. I thought that you were gonna say her. Which movies?
The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Okay, yeah.
Um, this one I've never seen, but from the trailers, it seems very similar. Swiss Army Man, the A24 movie with,
Oh, I love that movie. The Daniels directed that.
yeah, and it's got Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano in it.
Yep,
Um, I need to watch it.
love that movie.
It's on my list. But it just kind of seems like a similar situation. And then
Sure,
also the movie Voices with Ryan Reynolds.
I've seen that as well. Really enjoyed that.
That movie makes me uncomfortable. It's very
Does it?
it's unsettling.
I don't disagree. Do you want to say what the plot of it is, or shall I?
Yeah, so it's like this schizophrenic guy who whenever he takes his medicine he sees the world as it really is, and then when he's off of his medicine he like gets these like lucid ass hallucinations and sees the world as like this wonderful place, and like he ends up like his when he's off of his medicine his dog and his cat talk to him and like they tell him to murder people. And so
Yeah, yeah,
he becomes a serial killer, and he stores like heads in his refrigerator and shit, and when he's off of his medicine like the heads like are still talking to him in the fridge and everything. And so he also lives above a bowling alley, which is fucking weird as shit. But like whenever he is on his medicine, like he sees like how grisly and gruesome his apartment is and like blood covered and everything, and how awful what he's done is. So he keeps not taking his medicine so he doesn't have to face that, and it just keeps getting worse and he keeps killing more people. It's like one of the best serial killer comedies I've ever seen in my life.
oh, absolutely.
It makes serial killers funny, but it's so unsettling and uncomfortable at the same time, because in the back of your head that you shouldn't be laughing at this, and that these things that he's doing are absolutely horrible and brutal and disgusting too. And so, like, yeah, it's one of those like really makes you squirm in your chair type movies.
Yeah, as far as I know, Lars is not a serial killer, although he's really good at cutting wood.
It's just
Um,
what reminds me of it, like the correlation between it and Voices for me is the fact that he
he can
is
hear Bianca.
yeah, he's believing that she's real and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
which is the same concept as Swiss Army Man.
absolutely. It's a dead body, and this Paul Dano's character is stranded, and he is alone, and he is hallucinating, and he hallucinates that Daniel Radcliffe's character, who is a body that washed up on shore, is still alive, kind of. He is more of a puppet than anything, a puppet that can talk and talk on its own, rather. But it is just Paul Dano, all in Paul Dano's head. But this
Mhm.
body can do extraordinary things,
Like fart.
um, like fart, and it's like a speedboat. And like there's a grappling hook type scene, and there's just a bunch of weird stuff that this dead body can do. And Paul Dano's character ends up falling in love with the dead body.
Don't
Um,
spoil it too much for me because, like I said, this is a movie that I have not seen yet.
oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, well, okay, yeah, but it's not like a major spoiler, but it is one of those things where he becomes sort of infatuated with it because it's like it's it's the Wilson and Tom Hanks's character from Castaway.
Right.
Um, It's his best friend. It's his everything, and it's really, really good. And it's directed by the Daniels. It may be their first feature film, but they're the guys who directed Everything Everywhere All at Once.
which was an incredible film.
Sure, I haven't seen it, but sure,
Oh,
yeah, I believe it.
you should. I'll give you my Voodoo login. I have the digital on there. You can watch it.
You know, we can't talk about that. Maybe we can, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Why?
Uh,
Look, folks,
how do you?
we're a physical media podcast, but digital does have its place in society. Like, come on, we can't act
Well,
like it doesn't.
well, it's not that. How do you? How do I phrase this? Do you like Pirates of the Caribbean?
um, if the film is not available anywhere else,
Oh, sure.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If it's not available anywhere else, then of course that's the only reason, a valid reason why I would use something like that. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
FBI.
Soap Today no longer exists. Uh anyway, yeah, I that's something that I would probably talk to my friend Jack about and see if he has any access to it. Um I finally watched Renfield. Please tell me you've seen it.
Not yet.
Okay, well, one of the things I love talking about most is the Universal Monsters. Very big fan of the classic monster universe, and subsequently a lot of their attempts at rebooting it. And back in 2018, Blumhouse and Universal teamed up to sort of bring back the Universal Monsters after the failure that was The Mummy starring Tom Cruise. So they did The Invisible Man together, which came out in, I believe, March of 2020, to critical success, financial, obviously, because Blum makes monies on the cheap. And they quickly uh, casted Ryan Gosling in the Wolfman movie and Nicolas Cage as Dracula. But the movie is centered around the character Renfield, who is Dracula's familiar, his assistant, his slave, more or less. And Renfield in this movie is the focal point, as the name goes. And he's played by Nicholas Holt, so two Nicholases. And in this movie, Renfield is not just an assistant; he actually has like abilities of his own. And every time he eats bugs, he can basically become a super soldier, like Captain America. He becomes super agile and strong and just kicks ass. And it's a movie about toxic relationships. You know, Renfield wants out of his relationship with Dracula, but he is like Dracula is his life source. Dracula is his everything. Dracula mercilessly will abuse him into submission if he does not do his bidding, and then his bidding is murdering innocent people and bringing them to Dracula to suck out their life force to keep him at full power so he can take over the world and all that stuff. It is so good. It is so good. I'm so glad. I originally was going to go see this in theaters. Obviously, as a big Universal Monster fan, I wanted to see it on the big screen. I was a huge fan of the trailer, and I was rooting for this movie when everyone else thought that Nicolas Cage looked ridiculous. I made videos on TikTok saying, nay, nay, he does not look ridiculous. And Universal Monsters reached out and said, thank you so much for good publicity, Zed.
Did they actually do that?
Yeah, they did.
What?
Yeah, they're like, thank you for good publicity. Like, dude, you actually see what's going on here. And I'm like, yeah, of course I see what's going on here. It's Nicolas Cage's Dracula. This is awesome.
That's
People
cool.
were like, people were complaining about his makeup during the day. and it was just Nicolas Cage wearing like really like powdered makeup, and his lips were like blue, and he had like veins and stuff. And I was like, look, people, he's undead. Of course his lips would be like a bluish purple, and of course he'd be pale. He can't go out in sunlight. You're looking at Dracula in the sun where he shouldn't ever be. He would look weird, wouldn't he?
I've heard a lot of up
uh,
and down from Renfield. I've heard it's always to the extreme too. I've either heard it's really great or really horrible.
no, I don't understand how it could be really horrible other than folks that don't think trauma exists. Like people that are like, stop being dramatic, like just puff your chest out, stand up and stop thinking about those. Like, other than that, I don't think there's really any like downsides. The movie's just fun.
Every
The movie
complaint
is
that I've heard from it is about Nicolas Cage, though.
mm-mm. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my beverage because I'm getting worked up over here.
That's a good idea.
I no, Nicolas Cage is amazing. There's sequences that I've always thought that. Sorry, when I get excited, I get scatterbrained. I've always thought that Nick Cage looked so much like Bela Lugosi, and I thought it was a shame that we never got like a Bela Lugosi biopic, or there was never an opportunity for Nick Cage to just go wild as like a vampire. Not even Dracula, just like a vampire. I thought it'd be kind of cool. So when his casting came around, I was like, oh my gosh, like no way, no possible way this is happening. And I knew it was going to be eccentric because that's how Nick Cage is. I mean, they made an entire movie about him being himself, being an eccentric. So
that I love that movie, the unbearable weight of a massive talent. That is
yes,
him and
Pedro Pascal.
yeah, incredible film. I love that one. Nick fucking Cage.
It, and in the movie, Dracula is not only frightening, but he's also charismatic. And they go through all the calling cards, like all the calling cards of Dracula show up at some point in this movie. Even to the point, or like the original, like 1931, where they recreated scenes from the original movie. This is like a spiritual sequel to the original 1931 Dracula. And they reshot a bunch of those original scenes. And it was amazing. Like they look, and that's how the movie opens. And it's really great. And they even use like a really cool animatronic puppet. Because at one point in the movie, I mean, it's in the trailer, so sorry. Nicolas Cage is subjected to sunlight, and he gets burnt to a crisp. But that crisp is like an animatronic puppet that they use on set and not CGI. And that was really, really cool. And then all of the makeup, because he obviously has, he can regenerate his skin and whatever, but it takes time, it takes victims. So all of like the really cool prosthetics that the makeup department put on him, all the costumes, and he was so good. And again, it was a great mix between frightening and exotic. Like he was like Joe Exotic, an eccentric, crazy guy who could be genuinely frightening. And there was like what I really loved as well was the subtle hint at the Wolfman in the movie. And you're gonna be like, oh no, spoilers! That should be a big spoiler. No, there's a crime syndicate family in the movie, and that is Ben Schwartz, his character. Like he is the son of the big mob boss of the city, and they're called the Lobos, and Lobos are wolves. So this guy's the Wolfman, basically, in his essence, and I love that. It was just a great little. They don't tell the audience that, but if you pick up on it, you're like, oh, that's a good detail. And all of the fight sequences, I have a real hard no to shaky cam and too much cutting. I won't say that the fight sequences aren't cut around a lot, but no shaky cam. Like the Bourne Ultimatum shaky cam, I can't stand it. It makes me sick to watch the movie. Even though it's an amazing movie, the fight choreography in the Bourne Ultimatum is absolutely tarnished by its camera work and its editing.
I've not seen any of the
I
Bourne
digress.
movies.
Oh, you haven't? The first three are really great. Haven't seen the one with Jeremy Renner or the Jason Bourne titled
So,
Return of Maddie.
right. So, you would classify Renfield as being quite good. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Aquafina's also one. I love Aquafina.
What about the more so I think Renfield is really interesting because it's not the first time that Nick Cage has played a supernatural being wherein he is a mentor type to a young gun. Have you ever seen Disney's
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Yeah, baby. Of course I have.
That was one of my first Blu-rays that I ever got. I got it for Christmas one year.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I love that movie. It's been so long since I've seen it. I need to rewatch it. But I love that movie. It's such a good movie. And this sounds like Sorcerer's Apprentice, but the opposite. so,
Oh,
so
yeah. There's even a movie out there, I believe, that is um it's starring John C. Riley, and it's like the vampire's assistant.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Cirque du Freak, the vampire's assistant.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
so Cirque.
that's a very fun movie.
Yeah, well, Cirque du Freak is a book series that I read when I was in elementary school, and the first book is Vampire's Assistant, and I loved the movie, and I freaking hated that it didn't do well at the box office because like they
Oh, that could have
it
been a cool
intended
series. I didn't know it was, yeah.
yeah, they intended it to be like the next like Harry Potter, like
Do you remember who the assistant was? Because right now I am drawing a blank at the actor of the assistant.
I
I
can look
can't
it
see
up.
his face.
I can look it up. I've got the Google foo. Let's see, Cirque du Freak, the Vampire's Assistant. Chris Masglia. Mazog
Who is he?
Massoglia. Played Darren. He's been in literally nothing else I've ever seen in my life.
That is fantastic. This movie did really well, did it not? Oh,
Uh,
no. Josh Hutcherson.
okay,
That's who
so
I
maybe
was
I'm.
thinking of.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Josh Hutcherson plays Steve
But but
from Hunger
but he wasn't.
Games.
Yeah, but he wasn't the assistant though. He should have been the assistant. No, you're right. Darren Shan was the assistant, if I'm not mistaken. But
Hmm.
like Salma Hayek was in the movie as well, and oh my gosh, Willem Dafoe, I believe, is in it. Ken Watanabe's in it. Ray Stevenson, who we just lost, is in it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah, that's
it's.
right. Willem Dafoe played Gavner. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that unlocked that memory
It's
for me. Holy
so
shoot!
good. It's Circuit de
Wow.
Freak is so good. But yeah, it's basically the melding between those movies is what Renfield is. It's funny, it's shocking, and it can be scary. I mean, it's relative. Like it's not nightmare fuel, but there are points where you're like, holy crap! Like Nick Cage just did that. That is that is terrifying. And also the special effects, the visual effects. They used practical when they could, and then they used CGI as a tool. Obviously, they did the whole like Dracula Untold, where Nick Cage's Dracula turns into a swarm of bats and not just a singular bat. So that was all CGI, but they did really well at doing a lot of practical uh, stunts, costumes, makeup, effects in general, and that's so good.
I think it's on Peacock, so I'm definitely gonna probably go and maybe try to watch that tonight.
I just enjoy it. And again, I'm also just a really big fan of these characters and these stories. I mean, the two most what's the word I'm looking for? the two characters that have had the most renditions are Dracula by Bram Stoker and Sherlock Holmes by that guy. What's his name?
I don't remember.
Sir
I've never.
Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. There we go. I had a brain blast.
I've never
But
never read
yeah,
a Sherlock Holmes book in my life.
I own the entire series. I got it at Ollie's Bargain Outlet. Have not read it. But yeah, like those Dracula and
Ollie's
Sherlock
good
Holmes,
stuff, cheap.
I love it. I tag them every time I do an Ollie's haul, and they always comment on it and make me feel good. um, but yeah, like those two characters, Sherlock Holmes and Dracula, have the most renditions done, whether it be stage plays, books, TV, movies, whatever. Those are the big two. So I love it. I love vampire stuff. I love Dracula stuff. And
So what do
this
you
is
think
really fun.
is what do you think is the all right? So there's a movie. There's a vampire movie. It's not Dracula. It's a vampire movie that's in the same kind of vein as Renfield. I feel. Um, that is like
What we do in the shadows.
no close.
Oh,
Um,
I love that.
that is universally panned. Um,
Oh no.
for being bad, but I actually low key like it. Uh, the Johnny Depp Dark Shadows movie.
Oh sure. Yeah, that's one of Tim Burton's like rottens. Tim Burton. I have every time I talk about favorite directors, I have too many. But Tim Burton has more loves than womp womps, in my opinion. And Dark Shadows is a vampire movie. Yes, you are correct. That utilizes the vampire in sort of a different way. There are scenes where you get to see like some good vampire action. Um, the wire, like they do a lot of wire shots. So like Johnny Depp's character is like on the ceiling now, or he's like kind of levitating, whatever, and it's fine. Um, I don't hate that movie, but I'll be honest with you. It's kind of boring. I think that there's a good 20 minutes that could be cut out of it because what you really want is to get to the climax. And the climax of the movie is really awesome. Can we spoil Dark Shadows?
Yes, we can spoil Dark Shadows.
Chloe Grace Moretz's character is the freaking Wolf Man and turns into a werewolf and like attacks. Like they do like the Universal Monster team up at the end of the movie, team up slash battle, house is on fire. That was really cool and really fun. I don't think it's. I think it's pretty boring overall, but it it's classic Tim Burton. The aesthetic, the atmosphere, the obviously the way like, the use of Johnny Depp, and I believe Helena Bonham Carter's also in it. She plays like a drugged out aunt or like a drunk aunt. Um, so it's fun, but you know what? It's not better than
What?
Universal Studios Van Helsing, starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale.
Oh yeah, you want to go kill some vampires, mate, and then throw another shrimp on the Barbie?
That movie is awesome, and yet another attempt at Universal trying to jumpstart a cinematic universe that did not work. They threw all of their eggs in one basket. We got appearances from Dracula. We got appearances from the Wolfman. We got appearances from, I believe, Frankenstein's monster is also in it. We got appearances from Dracula's Brides. We got appearances from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We got appearances from, like, everybody showed up in the movie, and it unfortunately did not do very well, but I stand by it. It's awesome.
I want to
It
go.
is a very fun movie.
I want to go back to Dark Shadows real quick and mention something about.
Uh,
So like I kind of feel like Dark Shadows was like the precursor in a way to Tim Burton's Wednesday series on Netflix. Have you seen Wednesday?
do I have to answer? No, I've not seen Wednesday, although the character, if I was ever said, if everyone ever came to me and said, Zed, what character from any franchise do you want to play and we'll make it happen? Thing. Thing would always be my answer. Thing is my favorite character. I love Thing so very much. And you might be thinking, oh, he's gonna say Lurch. He's gonna say Lurch. He's 6'9". He's gonna be Lurch. Oh, I want to be the disembodied hand walking around. I want to introduce sign language. I don't know if they did it in the Wednesday series, but in the 90s movies, Thing did sign language a little
Right.
bit, but
Yeah.
like I'm fluent in it. There should be more sign language. Anyways, I have not seen it, and it hurts my soul that I haven't, but I have a hard time watching TV.
He,
Anyway.
he did in the '90s movies. He also did Morse code with a pencil.
Yes, yeah, yeah, he's tapping it on Gomez's desk.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with Adam's Family. I have Wednesday and Morticia tattooed on me. Um,
Hell yes, for the original MGM series or the comic, like the original comic.
so the Wednesday is a rendition that I let my tattoo artist do himself. And
Sweet.
she's kind of a mixture between the original MGM series and Christina Ricci, but she's more cartoony looking. But
Okay,
then it was important for me to for Morticia to get an actual portrait of Angelica Houston. So that one is the '90s Morticia, Angelica Houston, and she's holding a
that is.
rose.
You have to send me pictures. That's wonderful.
But I'll video chat you after we're done with this and show you. But so I'm obsessed with the Adams Family, and then in more in particular Wednesday and Morticia. So watching Tim Burton's Wednesday series, I kind of view that as like a uh redemption that Tim Burton got, and he got to do everything that he wasn't able to make envisioned in Dark Shadows. Like I feel like he might have been
Yeah,
more
and you know
limited
what?
in Dark Shadows.
It kind of is an Adams Family esque. Yeah, I understand. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I never saw it that way, but yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you should really watch it, man. Like Wednesday is great.
Oh,
It's
I will. Like I Jenna Ortega. I love the entire cast. I'm trying to think of their names right now. But even the actor that they got to play Uncle Fester, I loved him on Saturday Night Live.
Brett
At least the
Armisen.
sketches I've seen. Yeah. Obviously, the actors who play Gomez and Morticia are really good. Although, I wish Lurch has more screen time. I think I read that he only has like one episode and he's kind of like not really in it at all. But I digress. I wish that Lurch had more screen time because he's another one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, he
Um,
really only serves the purpose to drive Morticia and Gomez to and from, and like he's in the first episode, driving them to Nevermore Academy, and then he's like in like one scene of maybe a couple other episodes just as Gomez and Morticia's driver. He doesn't really have any lines or have any character development.
yeah, he's played by I think like a basketball player or something of that nature. When he was first casted, I was like, oh okay. Uh, that's yeah. You need a tall guy to play Lurch. But I have so much love in my heart for the original series, and what's his name? It's something Cassidy. Is his name? All I want to say is Butch Cassidy, but that's not his name. But the original actor who played Lurch, I have so much love for him and so much respect for him, and he created that character more or less. But how big of a missed opportunity um, MGM had when they did the animated series or the animated movies rather, because they got Oscar Isaac to play Gomez, they got Charlize Theron to play Morticia, Chloe Grace Moretz, aforementioned from Dark Shadows, she plays Wednesday. I don't think she would have been a great live action Wednesday, although her voice fits it perfectly. But like Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron as Gomez and Morticia, how perfect would those castings be in live action as well?
Uh, well, first and foremost,
No, don't ah me.
right
Don't ah
now,
me.
I think Chloe Grace Moretz is a little too old to play Wednesday.
No,
Um,
that's why I said that. What you weren't listening to me. I said I don't think she'd play a good live action. I specifically am talking about Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron.
okay, so I don't know what Oscar Isaac looks like. Let me Google a
Oscar
picture of him.
Isaac, he's Poe Dameron. He's also the bearded guy from Dune, the really cool beard guy. He also is Miguel O'Hara
Yeah,
from. He's
yeah,
Oscar Isaac. Come on now,
yeah.
I'm like
Okay,
naming all the characters he's been in. He was freaking Apocalypse.
okay,
He's been
yeah,
every. He's Moon Knight.
yeah. He does kind of have that suave Gomez look going on.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that casting so much, and he's great. And like the two animated MGM movies, The Addams Family and The Addams Family 2, they're fine. They really are. They're fine. But it felt almost like what Fox did with the Fantastic Four, as if they were like losing the rights, so they made Fan Four Stick. It's almost like MGM was losing the rights to the Addams Family, so they decided to quickly make something. So they made those animated movies. Like Finn Wolfhard is Pugsley, and obviously with Stranger Things and Ghostbusters, like and he became sort of like one of the new horror kids. So he was Pugsley. But even those movies, like even the Addams Family, definitely the first one, even revolves around Wednesday the most. Like she's the character that gets the most screen time. So they're like they've been kicking like Wednesday in the original, not in the original MGM series. I would say that the adults like Gomez and Morticia are the main focus, but um, subsequently with Christina Ricci, um, her Wednesday sort of captivating pop culture. Wednesday has been like the new focal point. She is like the Pikachu of the series.
Pretty much, yeah. She's the. It's because she is so relatable to modern kids and millennials too. Like the
Yeah,
millennial generation are really who adopted Wednesday as their character, but she's so relatable because like in our world where like let's be honest, everything kind of sucks, and she's a character that is not shy about like saying everything sucks. So, which I mean, I think it's funny though how the older, or not the older, but how the more modern the Adams Family got, the darker and darker Wednesday got. The darker all of them
yeah,
got. But like
yeah.
Wednesday as a little girl in the MGM series was not dark at all. She was like, yeah, she wore black. Yeah, she played cut heads off dolls and stuff like that. But she wasn't like, they couldn't make this little girl in the 1960s act like that. Like she
No,
was still a little girl, so like and even though I do love that version of Wednesday, when Christina Ricci took the character, it was perfected, and then Jenna Ortega took that perfection and she made it her own. And while
yeah,
I won't I try not to compare Ortega to Ricci because they're so different. And the one with Jenna is a lot more modern. I mean,
sure.
you're putting Wednesday Adams in a world with cell phones and social media. So, and
Hmm.
I think that Burton's Wednesday show is a great look at like putting this classic 1950s family, 1960s family, that were creepy and kooky then into a modern world where, let's be honest, if a family like the Adams is really existed in our modern world, nobody would really blink
We
twice
wouldn't
at
blink
them.
an eye. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we've
won't really
seen
blink an
way
eye
crazier
anymore.
shit. Like, uh,
Yeah,
so now I want to know, and I want to know this, and then we're gonna wrap this up because we're going on about an hour right now. Um,
sweet.
so Wednesday, the Adams Family is not the only um beloved uh 1960s creepy crawly sitcom that has been readapted to the modern age that came out in the year
Can I
2022.
guess?
Uh, you, you get one guess, and I guarantee you get it right.
The Grinch. No, the Munsters. The
The
Munsters.
Munsters, Rob Zombies, The Munsters. Okay, I want to
Yeah.
get this out there, and we're going to lose a lot of freaking listeners because of this. I loved Rob Zombies, The Munsters. There, I said it. I like
All
Rob
right, I gotta
Zombie.
go.
I like Rob Zombie a lot, but I like what he did with the characters. I think he did a great job adapting them to the modern age, and he has so much love for them. And you got to think, in the original show, their backstory, how Herman and Lily really met, wasn't like disclosed, like shown. Like they may have talked about like memories they had together and stuff like that, but it wasn't disclosed. Like this show or this movie, Rob Zombies The Munsters, was not about like the actual monsters themselves living in on Mockingbird Lane. It was about the world that Lily and Herman grew up in, and that they how they met. It was their love story. And I really liked that. I thought it was a really unique way to look at those characters and to revitalize and refresh those two characters in particular. I really liked it. Was it goofy and cheesy? Yeah, but you got to realize that you got to remember the original Munsters show was goofy and cheesy as shit too. Like Herman is not Frankenstein. He is Herman Munster. He's a monster, but he's not really a monster. He's a monster. He's a normal dad, one to work a 9 to 5 job, who who's also this 8 foot Frankenstein's monster. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I thought it was really good.
Well, here's the problem with Rob Zombie's The Munsters. It's really three things, and those three things are Fred Gwynn, Yvonne DiCarlo, and Al Lewis. Uh, that movie did not have them, and to me, they are really the only characters that I can ever see as the Munsters, especially Fred Gwynn. Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster. There's no other actor that I have ever seen, and they've attempted it, to portray Herman in any way, in any fashion. Like he is Herman Munster. And I haven't watched Rob Zombie's The Munsters, and it all comes down to because I don't care. I don't care to. It doesn't. I watched the trailer, and I even made like a reaction video, and I didn't post it because I sat there the entire time being like, this is not for me. Like, I'm not going to enjoy this. I don't enjoy the trailer. So instead of like putting out something super negative in the world where people would actually like it, I don't want to like hurt their feelings and then in turn them hurt my feelings. It's like I'm not going to post it. But like the original Munsters is an incredible. It only ran for 2 seasons, right? Like it only ran for a very short
Yeah,
amount of time.
like 2 seasons, and it had a bunch of spin-off movies, and then it had
And
a revitalization in like the 80s or the 90s that ran for like a season and then got canceled.
and then remember back in 2012, yeah, because it was the same year as the Avengers. Back in
Yeah,
2012,
Mockingbird Lane, like 13 Mockingbird
Mockingbird
Lane.
Lane.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, they
I
made
ran
Mockingbird
one
Lane.
episode. The pilot aired.
Yeah, the pilot aired. It was on CBS,
NBC.
NBC, the Peacock, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it had Jerry O'Connell as Herman Munster. Okay. Portia de Rossi as Lily Munster. Okay. But Eddie Izzard as Grandpa, that's a good casting. You get Eddie Izzard in there as Grandpa, that's good casting. And it only ran the one episode, and it didn't get picked up. They have tried to revitalize the Munsters, but we all have to remember the Munsters were never popular until syndication. They were never popular. The only reason they got movies was because of syndication. There was now an interest to see the Munsters back, but they couldn't really afford to do these big movies, nor did the cast really want to come or to do TV shows, nor did the cast have any interest to do more episodes. So they did a couple TV movies. And then obviously Fred Gwynn passed away and the other actors got a little bit older, so they tried to like revisit it later with another movie, and they recasted the entire family, although Yvonne DiCarlo and Al Lewis and I think Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster, the little werewolf boy, they all made cameos.
Yeah.
But again, they've been trying to recapture the Munsters since it was canceled in the 60s. and they can't do it. Why? Because the Munsters were never popular in the first place. So it's hard to like make something good out of something people weren't watching. In hindsight, it's amazing. I love that show. I'll pop it on YouTube, watch, clips from it. It's great. But it was no Addams Family. Even the Addams Family didn't run that long.
So you're talking to somebody obviously who's a major fan of Adam's Family. Um, I hold Munsters on equal par with Adam's Family. I think that it was as equal. It's different, but it was as equally good of a show. Um, as a Munsters fan, as somebody who's literally the next tattoo that I get is going to be Lily Munster and then Elvira on the same, like it's my arm that has Wednesday and Morticia on it is going to be a sleeve of horror, and that the forearm
Cool.
is all women, so I'm getting Elvira and Lily Munster. And so I absolutely adore the Munsters. And the Rob Zombie movie, he's in the same boat as me. He adores the show and he wanted to pay respects to it while still freshening it up and making it new and shiny, and it's a hard thing to do that for any filmmaker, to take somebody else's art and then try to recreate it, but also and pay respects to it, but also put it and bring it to a modern audience. And I think that Rob Zombie's Munsters in 10 years we are going to be looking at as a cult classic.
I can't believe that for any Rob Zombie movie, but I'm also a person who
No,
just
dude, House of a Thousand
hate
Corpses.
his movies.
House of a Thousand
I hate
Corpses is
those
already
movies.
a beloved like cult classic.
Okay.
Like the house, the Three from Hell trilogy is very beloved. Maybe not so much the Three from Hell movie, but House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Reject, it's got a huge fan base.
Yeah, it's no Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy though. No, like I'm sorry. Like I'm just the wrong person to talk to about this because I just don't like Rob Zombie and I don't like his music. I don't like his movies. I find his stuff, his art to be um unsettling and gross. And I don't like it.
The Munsters movie
Um
was not gross though. It was
no, my little brother watched it. Like he texted me. He was like, "Have you watched?" Because he thought like he saw Universal and a character that looked like Frankenstein's monster and was like, oh, "Of course, my big brother has watched this." Um, and I was like, "No, I'm never gonna watch that." And he's like, "I love this movie. It's so great." And I was like, "Okay, good for you, buddy. Not for me. Not for me. Sorry."
okay, but now you have your little brother telling you that it's great, and then now you also have your friend who is an obsessive Munsters fan telling you that
Yeah,
it's great. You should
good
watch
for
it,
you
Zed.
guys.
Watch it.
No, I'm like happy for you guys. Like I'm glad you guys found entertainment out of whatever you think that you watched.
Zed, you can't. I can't. I won't take you seriously until you watch it. You're going off a trailer. Come on now.
I no, it's crazy. It's like a lot of people who have so much like. There's two options. You have, and both start off with somebody who is super passionate about a franchise or a character or whatever, and they make a movie. They get the opportunity to make the movie that they've always wanted to make, and it turns out to be great. And then you have a fan who makes a movie about something they really love, and it turns out to be, eh. That's like this year with James Mangold, he made Dial of Destiny. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've seen it and I have an opinion on it, but unfortunately, for the second time in a decade, another Jones movie comes out, and it's like this epic, triumphant finale made by a massive fan that fans aren't connecting with. And that's unfortunate. And I'm not saying that's Rob Zombie's The Munsters, and I'm not saying that about any of these other projects. The worst movie you have ever seen is somebody's favorite movie. And your favorite movie is somebody's least favorite movie.
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
It, it, it,
I can't see Glenn Danzig's Veronica being a anybody's favorite movie. That movie was awful.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but
All
but
right,
yeah, again, it is what it is.
here's what we're gonna do.
You're gonna
This
go watch the Munsters, and I'm gonna go watch the classic '60s series.
no, this Spooktober, because this
Ugh,
Spooktober, the Masters are all planning. It's gonna be horror and Halloween spooky type episodes all month long. Every Blues Day, Tuesday, and Spooktober will be like spooky based. This
yeah,
Spooktober, me and you are both going to go watch Rob Zombie's Munsters, and we're going to discuss it on the show.
yeah. Hey, folks, I have an announcement to make. This is like a shocker,
Don't you
and
fucking
I'm
dare.
super nervous to announce this, but
Don't.
like
Let's see. User
I
volume, turn all the way down. You're no longer, they're no longer able to hear you. They are no longer able to hear you, Zed.
a little bit just real quick, and I this is a really amazing announcement that's like has nothing to do with this horrible challenge. Recently, Zed has converted to Jehovah's Witness. So I don't do Halloween anymore, dude. So even if I wanted to, which oh my gosh, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. I can't. And boo hoo. Can't even
Oh,
watch the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen anymore, which is very unfortunate.
we're going to watch Rob Zombie's Monsters. I'm going to make Zed watch it, and we're going
Can
to
I
talk
can I
about it.
watch it? Can I watch it on my church issued iPad as I go door to door knocking?
Yes.
Okay, okay, fine. Fine if you insist. I'll watch Rob Zombies The Munsters this Halloween.
Have you heard the good word from our Lord and Savior, Herman Munster? And with that, good night, folks. We've bastardized religion enough. We're canceled by the Mormon Church. Have a good one.
Ta ta.
Audience, you are my fire, my one desire. Believe when I say thank you for listening to Masters of Matinee. We would like to thank everyone who's been listening along and would like to remind you to go ahead and follow Masters of Matinee on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Special thanks to this week's co-host, Zedzilla, who can be found on TikTok at Zedzilla Movies. Don't forget that all 4 Masters are now on Letterboxd. Come see what kind of movies we've been watching. Be sure to leave a comment and let us know that you listen to the show. Their links can be found in the description. Remember to also follow me on TikTok and YouTube at JT the Talking Head. Thank you all so very much for listening to this awesome collaborative effort of 4 guys who just want to talk about the things they love, movies and physical media. Be sure to join us next week and every single week on Blues Day Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Hit it, Zed.
Hey folks, I'm Zed, and this week I'm going to show you how you can drown your neighbor's fish.